Well, hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is Kari here with a new project to share. Today I'm going to be using this stamp set from Miss Ink Stamps called Love in Bloom. This is a gorgeous stamp. It's got roses and some leaves in the shape of a heart. And then I'm going to bring in some other favorite products like this Latte lace stencil and this die set called Oh Happy Day frame die. This frame die is really cool because it cuts out all these different frames. So there's the scallop frame on the outside there, which I just removed, but there's also a thin little frame on the inside, this piece here, that I thought would be really cool for this project. So we're going to use that today, as well as the Happy Day sentiment. And so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be watercoloring this beautiful Love in Bloom stamp set. And so because of that, I'm going to show you an easy way to watercolor this, letting the colors and the water do the most of the work. I've got some Bristol smooth paper here. I'm going to stamp down the stamp with some VersaFine Onyx black ink. And I did stamp it a couple times to get a nice dark impression, and now I'm going to heat set that or emboss it with some clear embossing powder. Now I love doing this before I watercolor because I find it creates some nice little wells for the watercolor to sit in, and very rarely do I get any outside of those wells, so it helps me to be a cleaner watercolorist, if that makes sense. So I hope you'll try this. Now it's so simple when you have some watercolor markers like these. Today I'm using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. And I'm testing out a few colors here. I'm going to start out with the Persian green and the pale green. And I'm going to add the pale green to one side of each of these smaller leaves. And I'm going to add the Persian green to the other side of the leaves. And what this does is this allows me to have room enough to blend those colors together using a water brush. Today I'm using a water brush that has a nice fine tip. This may be the medium point actually. And I'm going to bring in a paper towel here, or Kleenex, that's what I had on hand, so that I can dab off the extra color and allow these to work together beautifully. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm first starting to combine colors like this, it takes me a little bit to get into my groove. So I'm going to practice this on the first set of leaves here, and then I'm going to continue on with the rest of the leaves, but you'll see I'm going to start getting darker and darker with my shading and the colors because that's what I liked. I liked the darker, dramatic look. So I added a little extra of that Persian green. And look at that. That's so pretty. And I'm just going to finish up the last of these leaves here that I missed. But I have reserved the larger leaves, the ones that look like the rose leaves. I've reserved those to color them a little bit darker. So for those, I'm bringing in some darker shades. I'm testing the colors here, and I've got marine green and May green that I'm going to use on those ones. And that way, these leaves are a little bit darker, and they're going to stand out just a little bit more from those other background leaves. So I'm going to do this exactly the same way, starting with the dark color on one side, the lighter color on the other side, and then I'll use my water brush to pull those colors together. I start with the water brush going over the lighter color and pulling it into the darker and then back out. Again, I find that works the best so that the lighter color doesn't get completely overtaken by the dark color. This is a really relaxing process, and I loved watercoloring this, but this is a super simple, easy way to watercolor. So even if you're not a professional watercolorist, this is something anyone can do. You just let the water and the markers do the work for you, and they blend together, and when they dry so pretty. So now I'm going to test colors for the flowers. I was inspired because as we moved into this new house, I told my husband that I wanted some really vibrant, beautiful roses for our new kitchen island so that it could feel a little calmer as we moved in. He got me some hot pink and corally corally orangey colored roses, a combination of the two of them. So that's what inspired me to pick these colors today. I've got dark pink and orange. That's the colors. That's the name of the colors. So for each of these rose petals, I'm going to use both colors and blend those together as well. So we're going to get a really fun, kind of a variegated looking rose. So I'm adding the dark pink to one end of each of the petals, and then at the other end I'm adding the orange, and then I'm going to blend those together. Now this, I did take the time to do each petal separately. If you want to do it quicker, you could probably do like hot pink in the center and then orange on the outside of the rose and not do each petal individually. But I really do love how this turned out in the end. I love the variegated look. I love the orange and the hot pink together. So beautiful. And as I color again, I get darker and darker. The nice thing about these watercolors and most watercolors is if you let them dry, you can add a little more dark color to it later and blend that out to make it a little darker, which I did on a couple of these roses. So that's a really, really great, fun way to create a darker look. I will finish coloring up this rose for you, and then the rest of them I'm going to color up off screen because it's basically the same thing over and over again. And you can just see how fun it is with these two colors together. Now you can choose any colors you want. It doesn't have to be orange and pink. Roses are a lot of different colors, but also it could be any color you want because this is paper, right? And watercolor, so it can be anything. As I finish up this last one, you're gonna see how pretty this is, and when it dries back, it will dry a little bit lighter as well. So keep that in mind as you're adding your color to decide if you want a little bit darker. So I went ahead and finished up these other roses off screen, and I'm finishing this one here. You can see I got darker and darker as I went along, and for the rose bud, I'm gonna make that even the darkest one. It's great to have a little variation between the flowers so they're not all exactly the same. So I like that. And that's it. It's all watercolored. Beautiful, beautiful stamp. And there is one rosebud up on the left there that I also watercolored in a little bit lighter. Now let's bring in that Latte lace stencil on a card panel as I let that watercolor panel dry a little bit. I'm bringing in some tumbled glass and mustard seed distress ink on this one, and I'm just going to blend them together to get a nice green in the center. Yellow and blue blend together to make a beautiful green. And I'll just go ahead and blend through and then blend back with the blue again to get more of that green. So that is our background. Isn't it beautiful? Now I've taken a Copic marker that matches my leaves, and I'm just going to color the Oh Happy Day sentiment. This is the die cut, and I left it in the background. And the reason I left it in is because I find that it's easier to color when it's left in the background. So it looks a little messy here, but when I pop these out, they're going to be beautiful and perfect and gorgeous. So I go over it a couple of times because I want that happy day to be darker. And now I've got some metallic cardstock here. I'm going to use gold for that frame. So I'm cutting that frame out one more time so I can make this little thin frame be gold. And look how pretty that looks with the background. I'm going to take the largest frame in that Oh Happy Day frame die to cut out our background panel. And this is going to give us some beautiful striped stitching detail to the outside edge. To put this all together, I decided to use the frame around that beautiful heart with the roses and add the happy day around the bottom. I did bring in some green cardstock to match those leaves for the outside, and I'm just going to glue that frame right down, leaving enough room for the happy day sentiment. I did add a few layers of that happy day together so that it is dimensional. And for the heart with the roses, I added some foam tape. So I'm going to glue that to the green piece of paper right there, just like so. And then I'll glue that to the card base itself as well. And then remove all those backers to the foam tape for the roses heart. And then just add that just like that. I did think it needed one thing to finish it off, so I'm going to bring in some beautiful green, dark green gems and add those around the heart and inside the heart as well. Now, sometimes when I'm placing gems, I like to put them in spots that aren't exactly perfect. So maybe where I didn't get that watercoloring perfect, I'll add a gem. It's a great way to hide any imperfections on your card. And there's a look at the final card. Look at that beautiful gold frame, how it glistens with the roses and the watercolor. I loved creating this project. I hope you enjoyed it today too. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see you back again and again because we have lots of card making tutorials to share. Thanks for stopping by. Bye-bye.